Imagine sitting on a plane, watching an innocent little girl stand quietly in the aisle while a grown man shamelessly stretches his leg and places his polished leather shoe right against her small dress. It's the kind of moment that makes you stop, stare, and wonder how far rudeness can go before someone finally speaks up. If this moment shocks you, then wait until you hear how it ends. Before we dive into the story, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss more powerful stories like this one. The flight had just taken off. Passengers were still adjusting their seatbelts, pulling out snacks, and settling in for what seemed like an ordinary trip. Among them was a little girl named Aaliyah, no older than 8, wearing a pale pink dress decorated with embroidered flowers. She held a small backpack close to her chest, the kind that looked worn but dearly loved. Aaliyah was traveling alone that day. Her mother had guided her to the plane, spoken gently with the flight attendants, and made sure she was seated properly before leaving her in their care. It was supposed to be a smooth journey to visit her grandmother in another city. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Just a few rows down, a middle-aged man sat with his legs crossed arrogantly, a half-empty bag of chips in one hand. He was dressed sharply, gray suit, shiny shoes, a tie loosened as if to show he didn't care about rules or formality. His bald head glistened under the cabin lights, and his cold eyes scanned people without a trace of warmth. When Aaliyah moved down the aisle, searching nervously for her seat, the man stretched his leg right across her path. Without hesitation, his leather shoe pressed into her small frame, halting her movement. The little girl froze. She looked down at the shoe, then up at the man, but he didn't move it. Instead, he chewed slowly on his chips, staring ahead as if she didn't even exist. Passengers nearby noticed. A few women exchanged glances. One motherly figure frowned, clearly offended. But no one spoke. Silence filled the cabin, heavier than the hum of the engines. Aaliyah whispered politely, "Excuse me, sir." Her voice was small, trembling with both fear and hope that he would understand. But the man didn't respond. He kept his leg where it was, his eyes glued stubbornly to the back of the seat in front of him. He reached for another chip, crunching it loudly, ignoring her completely. The girl's lips quivered. She could have cried, but she stood her ground. Perhaps she remembered her mother's words before boarding, "Be strong, no matter what. Kindness is your strength, but never let anyone make you feel smaller than you are." Passengers grew restless. A young woman in a maroon blouse stood up. She was seated just behind the rude man, and she looked down at him with disapproval. "Sir," she said firmly, "she's just a child. Move your foot." The man turned his head lazily toward her, narrowed his eyes, and smirked. "She can walk around," he replied coldly. "Not my problem." Shock spread across the cabin. The audacity of his words cut through the air sharper than turbulence. Aaliyah's hands clenched around her backpack straps, but she still didn't cry. Instead, she looked straight at him and said softly, "My seat is right there. Please." For a brief moment, even the cruel man seemed caught off guard. But arrogance returned quickly to his face. He leaned back further in his chair, stretching his leg higher, pressing his shoe firmly against her. "Then wait," he snapped. "I'm comfortable." It was no longer a matter of inconvenience. It was humiliation. He wanted to prove his dominance over a little girl. But destiny has a strange way of turning arrogance into downfall. The woman in maroon didn't sit down. Another woman in a navy blouse rose too, her arms crossed tightly, glaring at him. "Enough," she said. "This is harassment." Her tone drew the attention of the flight attendants, who quickly walked over. "Sir, please move your foot," one of them requested politely but firmly. "You're obstructing a child's passage." The man laughed, the sound dripping with mockery. "Are you serious? She's fine. She can wait. I paid for my seat, I'll sit how I want." Whispers spread like wildfire across the cabin. Some passengers pulled out their phones, cameras pointed discreetly toward the scene. Social media moments like this didn't take long to explode, and the man didn't realize the storm he was inviting. The flight attendant leaned closer, lowering her voice but sharpening her words. "Sir, if you don't move your foot, we'll have no choice but to report this as misconduct. You are endangering and disrespecting a minor. Is that what you want?" His smirk faltered. He sat up straighter, annoyance flickering in his eyes. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. But he didn't move. And then, the most unexpected voice broke the tension. It was Aaliyah's. The little girl lifted her chin, looked directly at him, and said with quiet courage, "My mother told me that people who try to hurt others are usually the ones hurting the most inside. I'm sorry for whatever makes you this mean." The entire row went silent. Her words, so pure, so unexpected, pierced through his arrogance like a blade. He blinked at her, stunned into silence. The women beside her softened their expressions, pride filling their eyes. Even the flight attendant stood taller, as if the child's bravery gave her strength. The man's jaw tightened. For the first time, shame crossed his face. He pulled his leg back abruptly, lowering his gaze to the floor. He couldn't look at her. The chip bag in his hand crinkled as he gripped it too tightly. He had been defeated, not by authority or power, but by the innocence of a child's truth. Aaliyah quietly walked past him, sliding into her seat by the window. She placed her backpack on her lap and stared outside, the reflection of clouds dancing in her eyes. She didn't speak again, but her silence was louder than any scolding. The rest of the flight carried on, but the atmosphere had changed. Passengers whispered to one another, shaking their heads at the man, glancing with admiration at the little girl. Phones that had recorded the moment were buzzing with notifications, videos already making their way online with captions like, "Entitled Passenger vs. Brave Little Girl." By the time the plane landed, the man could barely lift his eyes. Passengers avoided him, but not without judgmental stares. The women who had defended Aaliyah helped her off the plane, one of them carrying her backpack, another holding her hand. The rude man trailed behind, his pride shattered, his arrogance exposed. He knew deep down that he would never forget the humiliation of being corrected, not by an authority figure, but by a child whose strength lay in her innocence. As Aaliyah reunited with her grandmother at the airport, she ran into her arms with relief. Her grandmother kissed her forehead and asked how the flight was. Aaliyah simply smiled and said, "I was strong, Mama's words helped me." And though she didn't know it, her strength had already inspired millions. For the video had gone viral, shared across platforms, reaching hearts all over the world. Strangers praised her courage, condemning the man's behavior, and reminding everyone that respect is not a privilege to be earned. It is a basic right, no matter how small or young someone might be. So the next time you see injustice, whether on a plane, a street, or anywhere else, remember Aaliyah. Remember that even the smallest voice can silence arrogance, and even the purest words can teach the harshest lesson. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because more stories are waiting, stories that prove kindness and courage can change the world in the most unexpected moments.